And come on, let's start off on a good one.
4.
4. What is it good for?
I don't know.
Absolutely nothing. Please understand this, children. Given the numerous times I've looked at, taught, and seen this, if I had to say, if you made a mistake, this is what I would say. Most people look at that, and rather than following the order of operations as they should, they look at the 4 minus 3, the 3 minus 4, and go, "Oh, I'm going to get a -1 outside of the outside of that bracket there." You can't do that, because this 4 times this is multiplication. This all has to be done first. The very last thing you'll do is take 3 minus or plus whatever you get for this whole thing simplified. So if you had a -1 out there, that would be your number 1 mistake. Did you have a -1? All right, well, good. Anybody have a -1 out there? Thank you, Luke. So tomorrow, don't do that, because that's you can't do subtraction until you've done all the multiplication. Now, this is multiplication here. So the first thing you have to do is inside the brackets you do order of operations, which is parentheses. So inside this you get 6 squared. I'm going to reduce my pen to a smaller. 6 squared plus 4 bracket 4 3 minus 6 squared is 36 plus 4 in the brackets times the minus 4 3 minus 36 plus 4 is a 40 in the brackets. -4 times 40 is -160. And if you take 3 minus 160, you get 3 plus signs and 160 negatives of them. You end up with -157. Where, Lainey, did you go astray?
I don't know.
You not have it written out in a nice tornado fashion like I do?
Okay, I did in my head. But yes.
Oh, except for I did in my head. Those are famous last words, just so you know.
I did.
Sometimes our head is deceiving.
I think I had. I got 40, but then I added 3 and 4, and then I multiplied instead of.
But that's what I told you not to do.
Oh, you said not to do that first, and I didn't do that first.
Yeah, we did it last.
I did it last.
Yes.
Because
You
then
too, Keith?
that's what I did.
Really? Oh, I can't believe it. So you're saying you did this. You got 3 minus 4 and then 40 in here.
Yeah. Yes.
It doesn't matter. This is still multiplication. You have to do it first.
But I did it right.
Hey.
Let's chalk that up to experience. You won't do it tomorrow, and then there's one more you're getting right. Fisher.
Did you do
Number 18. Yeah, I got to kill it. Holy smokes.
okay, you said the paper.
Yeah, you're going to want that paper. I don't have it here, but I somebody got one that I can look at. Or shall I just pull it up there? You're going to have to look at it while I talk, so you need to either find it or get it or do something. This won't make sense. I got it. I'll find it on that. You will make me hunt and search out this. You know what it's going to be under? If you were going to save it under something, I think I would save it under probability.
I just keep it in the front.
Probability dice table back.
Sure.
Oh my God.
There it is.
Oh, sorry. My favorite tool of all time.
Snippet.
This has got to be it.
Snippet.
Why are there like splotches all over?
Because there's candy.
Because it didn't scan very well. I don't know. I don't get your question.
That's beautiful.
I'm struggling trying to get this thing shrunk down to a
Normal size.
Alright. So, then I would write down what my probabilities are. I want the probability of rolling 2 identical numbers. 2 identicals. which must mean like a 3 and a 3 and a 4 and a 4 and a 5 and 5 and a 6 and a 6 and a 6 and a 6. Or this is one of those overlapping things, or a sum of 6. So which means you're going to find this probability, add that probability to it, and subtract any identical ones that are a sum of 6, which is obviously going to be that 1/3 one, that 3 times 3. So let's do the first one. First of all, there are 36 different combinations on this thing here. So you've got a 1 and a 1, a 2 and a 2, a 3 and a 3, a 4 and a 4 and a 5 and a 5 and a 6 and a 6. So there's 6 of them. Are you with me? 6 identical sets there. How many sums of 6s are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I add 5 36s of those. How many of them overlap? This one right here. So you have to take away 136 because it's the same for both. So 6 plus 5 is 1136 minus 136. 10 over 36, which reduces to 5 over 18. Is that the answer I hope? So you'll need this bad boy. Stop me there if you want me to do that all over again. Just gotta write down again. Write down the things there. Or draw your own next table. So let's use that one. Someday, if you're good friends with Maya Clausing, look at her math. Those of you that are artistic, she makes each homework assignment is like a work of art. Literally, it's way overboard. I mean, it's all shaded, well, because Brooklyn, I
can't find it, so I'm
I
gonna
probably would have copied you one.
No,
up there if you asked.
No, it's
Remind me
not.
at the end here, but Brooklyn likes to draw straight lines. Some people find that as a soothing pastime, doodling and drawing.
If we want to use flat, we have to write.
No, I'll give you the copy if you ask me. I got it pulled up right there. I might even be some back there.
I have one.
I got this.
Number 11, children. Listen, children, you shall hear of the midnight ride of was the 17th of September in 75, and Maria's soul is something alive. Nick is, believe it or not, typing a research paper on his computer. He's typing, it's inversely related to his typing time. If he's typing at 45 words per minute, it will take him 4 hours to type his entire paper. How long will it take him? The only thing you have to remember is this: inverse variation simply means that when you take the two measurements and multiply them together, it always has to be that. In other words, when you're making the table of times and whatever, if it doesn't matter which one you call it. He's typing at 45 words per minute, and it takes him 4 hours. You multiply those two together, what is that, 160, 170, 180. Everything here multiplied has to always give you, did I say 160, right? Has to give you 180. No matter what two things you put there, they give you the one and it says he's only typing at 30 words per minute. So what number times 30 is going to give you that 180? And that, I believe, is where the 60 comes from. If he types at 180 words per minute, what was it? What's the answer? Oh wait, it's 6. Yeah, sorry. 6 times 30 is 180. If he's typing at 180 words per minute, it's only going to take him 1 minute. Now, did it matter? Was that the right answer? Because the thing to ask yourself is, this is in minutes and this is in hours. Will it matter on this? And I don't think it will. Did it matter? Was the answer 6?
Yeah.
I mean, you could change them all to minutes, but I think it'll all work. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, because it's ratios, it doesn't. Just
No, it says see if it is or not.
What?
If it matters.
It didn't matter on this one. It's not going to matter tomorrow. It might. I will. If it does matter tomorrow and I don't tell you, I will.
Mark it right on everyone.
Mark it down. Jenna Dervis. Me personally or the book?
You.
I think we'll change colors.
Wow.
Yellow. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what you need to do. If you're solving using elimination, you have to line up the terms with each other. In other words, you need to move these terms around so it's an x first and then the y and then equals a number. Change this to standard form. And to do that, all you need to do is subtract the 3x to the other side. Let me rewrite it. Here's my top one, 6x minus 4y equals negative 8. And my new one, I just rearranged the term so that negative 3x plus 3y equals 9. Did you happen to do that by chance, Jenna? I mean, that's really the only way you can. Huh? And then you still got it wrong? Really? So how are you going to get them to be eliminated? What's the most sensible thing? You could use really any numbers, but the most logical would be to do what, Riley? Multiply what by what?
By a 2.
Which one?
5.
Right, because this is a positive 6x. If you want this to be a negative 6, you just multiply everything by 2. So you end up with a negative 6x plus 6y equals 18. And then add them together, the x terms go away. 6 minus 4 is 2y, and that equals 10. So y equals 5. And then you just plug that into either one of these equations for the other one. I don't know. Any suggestions? Let's put it here. Negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. Add 20 to get it to the other side. You get positive 12. 6x equals 12, so x equals 2. Does that make it there, Jenna? You want me to do that again? Did I go too fast? I kind of sometimes. I try not to cut too many corners, but hopefully you can cut it exactly. Where'd you go wrong then, J&D? I mean, you could have multiplied this times the 4 and that times the 3 and done it that way.
I didn't make the 3x.
Didn't make the 3x who? Negative? Yeah, when you switch that. Riley O'Hare.
For 13, I accidentally did substitution, but I still got the same answer.
I will specifically be looking for the way they say. Substitution is much harder in my opinion. But
Well, that's easier. It's set up.
no, not
No,
really.
it's not.
Yes, it is. Yeah, what I did was I divided
It's
it by
nine.
3.
So you get x plus 3, yeah, sure, why not? But follow what it says to do, sir. That's all I'm saying. Kavar? Lucky number 2. Core in and runs 6 miles per hour. What is the rate in miles per minute? Did you write this out? 6 miles per 1 hour.
Yeah.
That's her rate. And you are just using a unit multiplier to convert miles, or I'm sorry, hours to minutes. You want to make hours minutes. So in order to get hours to cross off down here, your conversion fraction hours must be where? Beware. And you're changing it into minutes, so that has to be on the bottom. And you know there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So your hour labels cross off. If you do the multiplicating across, 6 times 1 is 6 miles on top. 1 times 60 is 60 minutes on bottom. And if you just reduce the fraction, it's a 1 over a 10. So it's 1/10 of a m per minute. Where did we go wrong on that one?
I divided something.
You did what?
I divided something.
You just don't know what it is? It's just a random something? The random something division doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. There are occasions. Elijah Fisher. 17. Well, if I was doing this, I would write myself a table. You got x and y values. X is 3 when y is 6. Given direct variation, you have no choice. You just ask yourself, your constant of variation is, what do you multiply x by to get y? 3 times what is 6? It has to be 2. If it's going to be direct variation, everything gets multiplied by 2. So the equation of variation would be y equals 2 times whatever x is. And the constant of variation is 2, because it's the constant is whatever your factor is that you multiply that by. Inverse variation, on the other hand, is the other way around. Y equals some number over k, or x over k. No, k over x. WKMOX, which we stay right next to in St. Louis, the radio station.
You get like the best, is it like super clear?
I don't know, I've never listened to it. KMOX.
listen to it on the phone.
It is St. Louis's version of WGN.
What's that?
How many times have you
What's
used it?
that?
Oh,
It's a really terrible.
How many times have you used it?
It squeaks. It makes the squeaking noise the entire time.
Oh, that's just.
What?
Wait, how many times have you been to St. Louis?
All of
18,
those
19,
years.
whatever those years are there.
Oh, yeah.
They've redone them.
We should do the best.
Ryan Harrington, what's your questions?
Can you do 20, please?
I would if I had it all written there, but what's the other equation? Y equals 2/5 x minus 2. The other one is
4x
Minus 10y equals 20.
solve the system below, and I would just graph them, children. What?
You
The one.
graphing this time?
Well, it says solve. They're already in solvable equation things. I mean, you can do it any way you want. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to do substitution?
No,
Oh,
graph
oh.
it, graph
That's what I
it,
did.
graph it.
I got 0.
Huh?
So I did.
Well, the problem is you'll get 0 equals 0, I think. And if that's the case, then it's infinite amount of solutions. If it is 0, x equals some number, that's impossible because you can't multiply anything. Graphing it looks like this. 2/5 x minus 2. There's minus 2 up 2 over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's line number 1. Line number 2, xy intercepts, crosses the x-axis at 5. How about that? Right here. Crosses the y-axis at -2. How about that right here? They are the same line. What? If they are the same line, then it is infinite solutions. Every point on that graph is an answer to this thing. If you did it, Lainey did it substitution, is that what you said?
Yeah.
So you plug this in for y right here. So 4x minus 10 times 2/5 x minus 2 equals 20. 4x, what is that, minus 4, plus 20.
4x plus 20.
Oh, 4x?
Yeah.
Sorry. Plus 20 equals 20. Subtract 20, yes, you get subtract 20, you get 0. 4x minus x gives you 0x. And the deal with this, if you have 0x equals 0, x could be any number, because 0 times anything gives you 0. Okay? It's only no solution when it's 0x equals a number, because there's no way you can multiply that times that to give you that. But in this case, anything you put in for x is an answer. So that's why it's infinite.
So should we just, do we have to graph the test?
But then nobody says that the one on the test is gonna be the same one. But you can go do it any way you want. This says solve it. Maybe you wanna do both ways to make sure you do it right.
The graphing way just missed me.
I'm sorry. It is 12. Jason, Friday, whose question?
Same question, what if there is like, what if there's not, how would you do that?
Well, if we need to
So
tell
what's
us,
the solution?
well, then I would see where the lines cross, and that's my answer. Jenna Jervis. Nah, the first one. It's not even on this page. Number one says, did you draw a piece of fabric in the shape of a square?
Yeah.
The area measured 28 square inches, huh? Here's my square, right? Area equals 28 inches squared. Now notice, Jenna, that didn't say perimeter. It's not what number added to itself 4 times gives you 28. How do you find the area of a square? You take the side times the side. Side times side equals 28, or s squared equals 28. When you have a s squared equals 28, how do you solve that for s? What number times itself gives you 28? What do we call that? The?
Square root.
Yeah, you take the square root of both sides. S squared is s, and the square root of 28 breaks down into, this is the answer, it just needs to be simplified. Square root of 4 times the square root of 7. Square root of 4 is the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, so that gives you a normal 2, and you're stuck with that square root of 7. What did you get 7 as an answer? Kenna, what did you get as an answer? Square root of 28? The excitement. All to
Number 10.
we already did 10, didn't we?
No,
Should we do 10?
sure.
Is it up here? No. Down here? No. Here? Yes.
It's on the first page. The second page. Second page.
No, it's on front.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's on the
It's
front.
not.
It's on the bottom.
No, it's not.
Yes,
it is.
It's
It
on the
is.
third page.
No, it's not.
That's the first
First
page.
page.
That's the first
Oh,
page.
wait. We're looking at 10, not 11. Brianna said we just did 11.
Once again, children, the first thing I think about when I see this is I look to see if my variable is negative, and it is. That probably means I'm going to change this sign somewhere along the line.
Oh,
To
no.
solve this equation, to get rid of a dividing by 3, you multiply by 3. That makes the 3 cross off, but then you're left with a negative x is less than 6. You can't leave it as negative, you have to change everything to its opposite, so x positive, opposite sign, x is greater than negative 6, open circle, greater than. Does that help? Just know that if there is a negative by that thing, you are going to have to switch the sign. I know James is feeling better, because he doesn't have that glassy eye, but he is looking deviant or something. Why that is, I don't know. Could still be annoyed by the bad man.
Ooh, don't bring that up.
We're taking it down.
Yeah.
A dive?
I
Yeah.
love some
Oh, yeah.
against Craigslist.
Gauss,
Number 17.
number 17. Oh no, not 17.
Yes,
Yay, my favorite.
do it. Do it.
I don't mind 17. It's just a matter
Do
of,
it.
it just takes a little while to write these numbers down. So 57
Got them all
I
written
can help
down.
you with this.
I'll see.
59. Ooh. 61. Talking to me. 60 what? 3? You tell me if I miss something, won't you?
Stephanie.
How many 64s?
3.
What?
And then
5.
65. One's 268.
268. Sorry.
69.
69.
71.
71, 72.
Yep.
71, 72, 74, and 76.
Yep, that's it.
Basically, all you're doing is taking these numbers and quartering them. The first one you do is have to find the median. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15? No.
Yeah.
It is 15?
Yeah.
I thought somebody came in. Elijah, did you? I thought you showed
No,
me
yeah.
that number. So the eighth one is the median. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 65 is your, huh? Complete middle. Did I miss a number?
Really
Okay.
15.
And then you need to find the median of the lower and the median of the middle here. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. Do I count the 65 or not?
No.
Sure.
I did.
Oh, there's a 69.
1, 2, 3, 4, fourth number. So there's a 63. That's your lower quartile. Q number 1 they call that. Q101. So there's your bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So your fifth number 1, 2, 3, your fourth number 71 is your Q3, first upper quartile. And then you have your whisker of 76 and your whisker of 57. These you can tell right off the bat they're not outliers. Remember how you'd find the outliers? You'd have to find the range. Difference between these two, which is 8, cut it and multiply it by 1.5, which is 12. If anything was higher than 12 or less than 12, they would be outliers, but there's not. And then the question simply asks you, half of the numbers fall between what two numbers? These two numbers right here. This is the inner half of the numbers. Lower 25%, upper 25%, middle 50%.
What was the equation to find the outliers?
It was the IQR, the inner quartile range, times 1.5 plus or minus. I don't think I'm gonna care so much. I don't think they'll give you an outlier. Maybe, but it's good to know. So you subtract 71 from 63, you get 8. You multiply 8 by 1.5, and that gives you 12. So if anything is 12 higher, you'd have to get to 83 on this side, and you'd have to go down to 51 on this side. Those would be called outliers. 1.5 times the inner quartile range. That sounds so mathematical. What? Wait, where?
Why?
How?
KR.
16.
Haven't we done 16?
Nope.
Is that right here? Is that it?
How about number 8?
16. The supermarket marks down the price of a $3 loaf of bread by 15%. What is the discount and the new price of the loaf? Well, there's a couple different ways you could do it. Let's just do it this. How about this? Let's do it as a box.
We like boxes.
Because my Ram told me years ago when I was just this tall.
Ram.
This is actual. You got your original price minus your discount equals your final price. 100%, what was the discount?
15%.
So you paid 85%. Your original number was $3. Do you have to make it cents? Probably not. It'll all work out in the wash. So they actually ask you for both of these. What is this? What is this? Once you find one, you got the other, so it doesn't really matter. Let's find this one. 100 over 15 equals 3 over what number? Well, let's just do it this way. 100n, because it's easy to divide by 100, equals 45, divide by 100, you get 0.45 or 45 cents. So you get a 45-cent discount. $3 minus the 45-cent discount means you pay $2.55. That's an expensive loaf of bread. Well, not probably really. Wow, Jaden has come to life, children. Sir? Jaden! Number 7. Are you just saying that? Did you get it right? Do you just want confirmation of your rightness?
Oh, I know. I like
Or number 7, I would just simply do this, and it's in your notes somewhere. You know, you doing this is just proportional or a ratio box or whatever. And you are just comparing, it doesn't really matter how you set the box up. You've got the small triangle, you've got the big triangle, and then you've just got whatever sides they give you. You just kind of have to label them. In other words, you know, if you went with, is this the shadow?
Yeah.
If you're talking about the shadow, you can put shadow for that. The shadow on the small triangle was 5.2. On the big triangle was 36.4. And then the height on the small one is 3. They want to know how the height of this. Now, if you were any kind of a mathematical wizard, you could kind of see that there is 5.2 times something will give you 36. Anybody? 7. That gives you 14, 35, 36. So you're just going to multiply this by 7. If not, then you have to do it out mathematically, which would mean 5.2 times n equals 3 times 36.4. Multiply that, divide by 5.2. Either way, you will get 21. But if you just draw your little ratio box, I think I would be happy. I don't know about you. Look at all that red. Jason, remember when you went take notes at all? Okay. Now look at him, raising his hand.
So proud of you, Jason.
That's a good question.
Cheers to the
I'm back. Jason, how do I do it? Is it on this page? Right after this, was this 7? Well, the only thing you'd have to know is 2 things. Parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slope. And if neither one of those are true, then it crosses somewhere and it's either parallel or perpendicular. So you already know the slope of this. If you can determine the slope of this and figure out that it's 2/5, you know that it's parallel. If it ends up being, oh my gosh, if it ends up being -5/2, you know it's perpendicular. If it's neither one of those two, they're going to cross somewhere. Well, it's still going to cross somewhere there. So you need to solve this for y. When you solve this for y, if you get a 2/5 x, you know it's perpendicular. So add 2x to get it to the other side. 5y equals 2x plus 30. Divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. You can stop there since you know 2/5 is in fact the same as 2/5. They are in fact parallel. One little tidbit of info right there. Burn pile's going, just so you know.
smell it.
Huh? Can you smell it?
Yeah.
Where?
I can't.
Let's go to the. Let's go to the.
You guys brought marshmallows, we could roast marshmallows.
Let's
Wait,
do
where's
it.
the- Where's the burn pile?
The thing that's.
You didn't
Does
bring them.
anybody have marshmallows?
I think Mrs.
It's
Stone
not,
does.
it's not really put on fire anymore, it's just smoking on.
I think Mrs. Stone has.
Miss Ryan marshmallow. It really does.
No, it's still.
Anybody else, anything else, going once, going twice? Aubrey?
It's not as good as
15, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this thing wrapped
He's
up.
mostly just smoking on it.
That up here? No, yes, up here. 15 simply would be the slope formula. M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. They give you the 2 points, it doesn't matter what you call what. I will call these the x1, y1, and that the x2, y2. And just fill in the proverbial blanks. Strongly recommending we use those parentheses, they seem to. Y sub 2 was negative 3. Y sub 1 was 4. X sub 2 is 3. X sub 1 is 2. Negative 3, negative 4 is negative 7. 3 minus 2 is 1. I would guess that the slope is a negative 7 slope. Is that right? Questions on that, Aubrey? See where did you have the slope formula, Aubrey?
Yeah.
Just put things in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Nobody asked about this one? Wait, go ahead.
14.
Yeah. Number 14, remember children, rate of change is the same thing as slope. Or, if you want to know, it is also the AKA rate of change, slope, and it's the constant of variation. I guess we have to spell it right. Constant of variation. It's all the same exact thing. So the only thing you're looking here, if you think of this as being a table of x and y values, you simply ask yourself, what do I multiply this one by to get that? That is your rate of change. That is your slope. That is your constant of variation. 2 times 35. And all of these better be times 35. Otherwise, something is amiss. If it's not times 35, then it doesn't have a constant rate of change. That is simply it. It doesn't really get much easier than that. Have we done them all?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I could minimize this and make it all.
Wow. Yeah.
Which one's the biggest?
Close. Manny Rock,
Which one?
6. Number 6. Oh, I love number 6. Number 6 is just FOIL, Maddie. It's a binomial times a binomial. Your 2 first terms, Maddie, 2x times a negative 3x is 2x times a negative 3x is 6x squared, 2 x's. Then you have the outside terms, which would be 2x times 3, which happens to be 2 times 3 is 6. Then you have the inside terms, which is a negative 2 times a negative 3, another positive 6x. And then the 2 last terms, which would be a negative 2 times a positive 3, which is a negative 6. Generally speaking in this, if you have the right thing, the 2 middle terms will combine. 6x's and 6x's is 12x's. Negative 6x squared plus 12x minus 6. Astound and confuse your friends. Is that the last one we haven't done?
Nope.
9, 5,
9, I said we ran
Three.
through, did I, or did I? How much 9?
Above 8.
Oh, 9.
9, 5, and 3.
Which one?
9, 5, and 3.
And 12.
And 12.
5 to 12.
Oh, 9,
Am I stopping?
Stop.
Do 9.
Stop, we're good.
Oh, we don't. Never
Nine.
mind. No, do 9.
That's 6.
Never mind.
No negative, so nothing changes.
Do 12.
Easy dog right here. Easy dog.
Got it.
Oh, 5 and 5, yeah.
You look like Doug.
Look like Josh.
Some 40 years later.